All right, welcome to the show, everybody. We got a show for you. I'm Donald W. Moore. I started Get Off My Lawn Records, and I play jazz guitar, and I need to clean up this intro a little bit for everybody because, I made a film, and I take pictures on Instagram, right? The Jazz Destroyers have an Instagram.
Why does it say podcast number 10?
I'll fix that in post. We haven't done this format in a while.
That's true.
Welcome back, Steven.
Greetings. It's good to be back.
Yeah. So, we've been doing these shows by ourselves now for a while because we started doing a lot of interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't had guests in a while. I had to clean the room up. Sorry about the state of the room.
Hey, it looks beautiful by my standards of clutter.
Fair enough. You're a bachelor.
Yes.
You and Brian are living in that bachelor pad, and it's hilarious and awesome. And I reminisce for those days.
Yeah, bachelor pad is...
I totally go hang out there when I want to feel like a bachelor for a while. But
I noticed you come home and wait for dinner.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Well, not much food gets cooked in our house.
Yeah. You guys are going to start looking like me.
Eventually. It's the natural state of the Walker man anyway.
That's true. Hey, why did we change slides?
I don't know. Why did you change slides?
I don't know. Let's go back. Okay. So that's going to throw me off in editing. I was explaining to Steven, I edit this very quickly. We did a special edition where I actually walked everybody through the process in which I edit this podcast. Because, my whole thing on Get Off My Lawn Records is I kind of want everybody to, if you like my idea, use it. This collectivizing of our audience, I think we could do something really cool. There's a lot of guys like me out there with a recording rig and a day job, right? If you've got a recording rig and a day job, you don't need to make money at it. So quit charging. Instead, create a collective of musicians and help them sell their music. And by doing that, you're making the world a better place. And you're going to keep a little bit of the sale, and you're taking a gamble. Some of them will do great. Some of them won't. We're totally transparent in the way we do business.
Sure.
Right? I imagine somebody's going to watch this and go, you know what? That's a good idea. And really all you need to know is how to record a band or know somebody who knows how to record a band.
And we mean actually know how to record a band, not just know how to press the record button. Because it's a little more complicated than that. It
is. You've been doing great. You have gone. I remember the first time we had you press record, you screwed it up and we lost a take.
No, we lost a take because you didn't tell me that you guys were starting to roll.
No. It was the one where you had pressed record, but you hadn't pressed play.
Ah.
Right?
Right, on the tape machine. I still got it on Digital Performer.
No, I'm talking about the first time you used Tom's R24.
Oh, that one.
So you've been pressing record for us for a long time.
That one, yes.
We do these Freeform Fridays every week, right? But we record them in these large batches. It's like a full day of recording, and we really capture it. And it takes me a tremendous amount of time to edit it, and it drives me nuts when people don't seem to care. But, I'm going to check out #Freeform Fridays on YouTube. It's my art,
Yes.
And then with the rest of this, it was I have all this capability. It cost what, $300 so we can make one disc at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The first batch of 100 costs $3 to make one at a time. If you're going to do a batch of 1,000, it's already pretty cheap. It's the ink that'll get you. We've been having to calculate how much we're going to have to spend on ink and things because they're consumables. But most people, they buy a printer, they don't change the ink cartridge every week. So, because you make the discs, you've made our first batch of Freeform, the best of Freeform Fridays, 2016.
And I've got one, and it was very novel to actually have my hands on a disc, which
Yeah.
is almost like an artifact of another time at this point.
Yeah. Well, and it's a physical thing that should theoretically last a long time and will be playable for a very long time. So ultimately the goal would be to like press vinyl, because vinyl is, from an archival standpoint, will survive the apocalypse. When
If it's in the right room.
like with a
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's not too hot.
right, but with a vinyl record, you can literally take a cone. You can make a cone out of a piece of paper, tape a needle, like a sewing needle, to it, spin the vinyl on a pencil, and then place the needle on the groove, and you will hear sound. The recording survives. I've been getting really into the Victorian England, right? So they were pulling out these very first recordings from prisoners of war of World War I. And they're all on 78 acetate. And it's very brittle and fragile, but they survive. There's a whole archive, and it's like the earliest, like people who lived before that didn't have a record of their voice, of their accent. Right? I watched this whole thing. It was very interesting. But anyway, you press record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole vinyl thing, I learned that from Mr. Rogers. And that's why we do this whole Carissa Explains It All, right? Our section 2. You're doing educational content.
Yes.
And we were trying some pop content, but nobody seemed to care about that. So let's go back to the educational, right?
Sure, why not?
What's our topic this week?
Negativity bias.
That's right. We're going to learn all about negativity bias and the way it affects our thinking about things and our decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be very cool. That's our section 2. After that is our section 3, which is I posted a picture on our Facebook that said, what is the one television show that should have one more season? And I've got Facebook on the phone. I'll pull up the thread and we'll look at all the answers.
Oh, I've got my answer.
Good.
We'll save it for the time.
Yeah. And then section 4 is our announcements, our goals, and a giveaway. Right? So that's always fun. And then our section 6 is our shout outs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's a lot of talking about me, and I get sick of talk. No, 5 is our shout outs. 6 is our deep thought. This week is stop using plugins. Or did I put plugins? I meant presets. Stop using presets. All right?
Okay.
That's what that's
that
about.
sounds
There's a
better.
lot of-
I may
I was
have to
gonna say
go.
plugins, really?
I may have to go. Well, on some level, you should stop using plugins. We'll talk about it. So we'll start with that, and then we'll fix it. But and then section 7 is everybody gets a trophy.
Yes.
Michael from our Ask a Canadian episode, he had gotten us. We were passing around the big oversized lighter, and I think we should do it like we should actually pass around the oversized lighter. So here's the lighter. We're gonna move on to section 2. Carissa Explains It All.
Put the lighter down.
Okay.
This is not camp. We do not need a talking stick.
Oh, but the talking stick would be so fun.
Talking stick's gonna get thrown at your head. That's what's gonna happen.
Okay. All right. So
Besides, it's a completely lame oversized lighter that does not have an oversized flame. So what's the point?
the flame gets oversized.
Yeah, but if it's not like the Joker from Batman, the original Batman
I don't want to set
movie-
this room on fire. But
Yeah,
I
see
mean,
that's a complete wuss flame. Like
All
that's totally unworthy
Hey, it's a valid.
of a lighter
Put
bigger
it
than your
back
fist.
on your desk.
It's a
Don't
valid
drop it on the
complaint.
floor.
It needs to move its way off the desk. So here's the phone. We've got Keynote running,
Yes.
right? And I do a screen capture of the screen. And yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
All right. We got negativity bias this week.
Oh, fun.
This was requested by Don,
This was.
and so I fully expect Don to interject with all his thoughts and completely take over half the presentation.
I was going to assume I'd start mansplaining. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Remember, the Pocky Puck is over on my side.
Yeah, but I got the trophy.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure I can make the hockey puck hurt more.
Fair enough.
All right, negativity bias. So the definition of a negativity bias is that even when of equal intensity, negative things have a greater effect on a person's psychological state than do neutral or positive things. So in other words, the human brain is built with a greater sensitivity to unpleasant news.
Basically, you know what? You got me all self-conscious. But this was all, I requested this because we talked about this a little bit on our, what was it? The I Met Farrah Abraham clip, right? If you search for I Met Farrah Abraham, get off my lawn records, here we are.
I think we've talked about it on a couple episodes.
Yeah, so
we mentioned it anyway.
But the idea is you could have 10% feel like 90% when you're talking about, like, do things feel like everybody's doing this? Is nobody doing this? That sort of thing. That's really where the negativity bias comes out from. So go ahead.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Of course it is.
So this all has biological roots. Negative stimuli produce more neural activity than do equally intense positive stimuli.
Yep.
Negative stimuli is also identified more easily and quickly.
Negative stimuli means like something scared me.
Something scared you. It's definitely the fight or flight response.
Yep.
You know, it's how they figured out that the negative stimuli is identified more easily and quickly is they did the thing where they sit the people down in front of a computer and like flash images of faces at them.
Yep.
And even when they go so fast that you can't really identify them visually, they still registered when an angry face popped up.
And
far more likely than a smiling face.
And then what was the question? The question was what percentage were angry?
No, they were picking up brain activity
Gotcha.
While they were doing it.
Gotcha. But what I'm saying though is if you ran that experiment yourself, you can reproduce this. You run a bunch of positive faces and negative faces, intersperse the negative ones randomly, and then show it to somebody and ask them what percentage of the negative faces were in that series of photos, and they will tell you a much higher percentage than what was actually in there. If you put 10%, they might say 50. So go ahead.
So the amygdala, which is responsible for the fight or flight response, uses about 2/3 of its neurons to look for bad news. So it's already primed for the negative.
Where's the amygdala in the brain?
It's on either side. There's like little almond-shaped regions.
So like if you got hit in the head right there.
Yeah.
Bad, weird stuff would happen. Keep going.
Yeah. Negative events and experiences get quickly stored in memory, whereas positive events need to be held in awareness for a dozen or more seconds in order to transfer from short-term memory to long-term memory.
Which basically means if you experience 6 seconds of happiness, you will forget it.
If you don't sit there and consciously dwell on it, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense why it would be this way from an evolutionary perspective, because clearly this function would be useful as a survival mechanism.
Yep.
Sure.
You want to remember the bad stuff so that you can avoid it. But
they also use the example of if you're a hunter-gatherer approaching a bush and the bush rustles, is that because of the wind or is that because there's a tiger behind the bush?
Yeah.
Well, everyone that decided to be irrational and run away survived.
Exactly.
Whereas at least a portion of the people who were like, I'm going to see if it's a tiger or just the wind, they never made it back.
Exactly. So the bias is so automatic that it can be detected in the earliest stages of the brain's information processing. Like they've detected this in infants. So, it likely evolved to keep us out of harm's way, as we just discussed. And the survival of the early humans depended on this ability to dodge danger. So basically, the people who had this more ingrained went on to survive and pass on their genes. And so now we're all just horribly, horribly negative people.
Yep. Yep.
Well, it really hurts us in the information age because it makes negative stories jump out at us more and makes it harder to recognize the positive aspects of people and organizations and things. And even though there's a lot of villains and evil actors in the world, if you can't tell the difference between them and the good guys, then that's a pretty lousy place to be.
Sure. But at the same time, most of us aren't in mortal danger every day, unless you count the freeway. And yes, I totally do.
Especially here in Texas.
Yes.
They're crazy out here.
They really are.
I've driven in California. Texas can't hurt me anymore.
No, California is nothing compared to Texas.
I don't know. Those California drivers
LA traffic.
Those California drivers weren't all you made them out to be. New York drivers now.
Okay, what did
New York
you just
has the best drivers in the world.
Uh-huh.
Hey, listen, 55. When the speed limit says 55, we all assume that means the minimum. It didn't say maximum. It could have been minimum. That's all I'm saying.
It's not the Autobahn, dear.
I had to tell that to the drivers who commute on the Taconic.
Uh-huh. But, since we have desk jobs, we're not out in mortal danger. And so this, our tendency to accentuate the negative ends up getting repressed. Or what is wrong with your device?
Hit play.
I've done this twice. It gets repressed and internalized, and I'm fairly certain it leads to depression and anxiety. Because those were not complaints that we heard 2,000 years ago or even 100 years ago on a regular basis.
First world problems.
Yes.
Right?
That's true. Because it only becomes a bad thing in an environment where you don't have to fear for your life.
What's wrong with the device?
I don't know.
Fix the device.
So here's what I want to do at this moment, right? Hashtag first world problems. Leave me a comment below. Leave me your favorite hashtag first world problem you've ever heard of. I'm sure there's some good ones. The internet's out. Oh.
Why don't you plug the phone in? It might make a difference.
That won't help at all. It's not a battery issue here. I'm taking this off.
Okay.
I was showing Steven this. I have a thing where I can mount my phone to a tripod.
It is very cool, actually.
It's pretty nifty, right? And it would be so simple. I'm really thinking about doing like, I've been talking about doing Don Plays With Himself, the series where I play solo on the Jazz Destroyers page, right? So
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you clarified that.
See? And it would be me playing solo, right? Probably with
on an
looper.
instrument.
On an instrument. Nobody wants to see that. So yeah. But the iPhone, I think some of the early Freeform Fridays videos we shot partially on iPhone.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pain in the butt getting the files off of them and into the computer. Like, because everything else does the SD cards.
I think even up to like 4 guitars? I think part of that was shot on iPhone.
Yeah, I think we did set an iPhone up for that one. Because the T5, last year it was like you were shooting. What were you shooting the Freeform? Okay. Let's move on.
So there's 4 possible explanations for the negativity bias. Well, the first one's negative potency. While possibly of equal magnitude or emotionality, negative and positive things are not equally important or noticeable.
To some people.
To some people, but when your life's on the line, are you going to notice the positive or are you going to notice the thing that might kill you?
Hey, this thing's about to eat me, but at least we got running water.
Yeah, exactly. So then the second one is the steeper negative gradient. Negative events are perceived as increasingly more negative than positive events are increasingly positive the closer one gets to the event itself. So like if you really hate going to the dentist and you've got to get a root canal, the feeling of dread is going to get worse and worse and worse the closer you get to the appointment.
I've never had a problem with it.
You have good teeth. You're lucky.
I have fantastic teeth.
Oh, well, dentists specifically, but just that I have countless times felt that sense of oppressive impending dread when going toward anything that I didn't want to do.
Sure.
Whereas you're right. I'd never really thought about it till now, but it's true that there is not an equal positive effect. Like you can get more hamped up the closer you get to something you're excited for, but it never seems to be quite as like underneath the spine as the dread version does.
Yeah, and even when you're going to do something positive, like go on vacation, there's always that moment like the night before your flight where like, oh, I've got to go through the airport and deal with a layover, and even the positive stuff goes negative.
I like traveling with you.
Why is that?
You're a good airport companion.
Is that why every time you have to travel by yourself, I get called from whatever airport you're stuck in?
Yeah.
Hey, some airports are kind of awesome.
No.
Yeah, some are.
No.
Some
They're all
are.
very expensive.
Oh, sure, but I mean...
Everything's more expensive in the airport.
Well, I just mean as an institution, there's something charming about the self-contained universe of a large airport.
Of such a socialist idea. Agreed upon air travel. Holy mackerel.
Hey, the air travel industry is one of the most efficient, like, fact-based industries out there. Like, the air travel industry has so many procedures, especially regarding air travel safety, that should be standard procedure for every industry everywhere. And if most people understood how badly the healthcare industry does compared to the airline industry regarding learning from failure, they would never want to see a doctor again.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not covering that next week. That is way too big a topic. Okay. So the third explanation.
You know what, Stephen? You should do that on your next Escape from Ignorance. Why the healthcare industry, like, walk everybody through it. That would be a good.
Oh, we're nowhere near that point yet.
All right.
That's way down the road.
Okay, so our third explanation.
You should write it anyway, and then when you get there, it's done. Go ahead.
You sure? You sure this time?
Yeah.
Promise?
Okay.
No, I need you to say I promise.
I promise.
Okay. Third explanation. Negativity dominance. The tendency for the combination of positive and negative things to skew towards an overall negative interpretation. The whole is more negative than the sum of its parts.
Oh, that's the one I think is the... That's the... Oh, no. Some is...
That was actually kind of what we just talked about.
I think that is the
Travel can be-
fallacy that turns a lot of people against public figures unfairly.
Fair enough. We're not doing politics.
We're
on
not,
this
but
show
I
anymore.
just think that's how that applies in real life to me. Is I think it hinders our ability to fairly judge public figures because we can't effectively balance in our heads the positive and the negative.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last one is negative differentiation, which is the conceptualization of negativity is more elaborate and complex than that of positivity. So think about like when you're describing a
that's
positive
true.
event, you've got so many words and so many ways to describe it, but you've got way more negative ways to describe something.
Huh.
It's true. There's a lot more synonyms for negative words and a lot more variety of negative words than there is positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's kind of why Thunderwake is so dark. It's because we really got right early with it at certain points. And at other points, we just improv. But, Greg went way down the rabbit hole on some of that.
He really, really did.
And it's,
See,
you're right. It's so
Thunderwake-
much easier to do skew negative.
And I consider that movie to be like happy and bubbly compared to some of his other work,
Yeah. Yeah. He's pretty cynical.
but in a very entertaining way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Greg Sisko. Everybody should read Donald Trump and the Hairpiece of Evil.
It foretold the future.
It really
was
did.
written and published before the election, and if you read it now, you would be convinced that it wasn't written until well after it.
Yep. Yeah, he started writing that. I think I was on him to get it out by the end of the primary, by the conventions.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, this is not a politically biased book.
No.
Even though it's called Donald Trump and the Hairpiece of Evil, and clearly there's a lot of fun made of Donald Trump, the entire American political system and every famous figure from both parties is
Totally.
beautifully skewered.
Yeah. It's fun for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So ways to combat the negativity bias. And if any of you have like been in treatment for depression, and have taken like cognitive behavioral therapy, then you'll actually recognize quite a few of these. So the first way to combat it is just to recognize it.
Yep.
Realize you're going negative.
Hey, the first step is admitting I have a problem, right?
Yes.
Let's recognize it. Exactly.
So next one is savor the positive experiences. So when you have a positive experience, like be in the moment and enjoy it and make it long-term memory.
Sure.
Next one is keep a ratio of 5 to 1. They found that you basically need 5 positive things to make up for 1 negative thing.
Yeah.
So, yes.
5 to 1.
5 to 1. That seems to be the magic number.
I think the magic number is the ratio is much higher online versus in person. I think 5 to 1's about right for in person.
Yeah.
So, hey, go give somebody a hug. Right? Love each other. Hey, by the way, you can
See,
say
I
the
was
next one
thinking-
is, the next one is.
You're like, love each other. And I'm like, so I should get 5 cheeseburgers instead of just 1 next time.
No, because there's a negative.
No, you should get
Right.
No,
Yeah.
you should get 5 cheeseburgers and give them away.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
But only if they're good cheeseburgers.
Right.
If they're not good cheeseburgers.
Hey, leave me a comment. What's your favorite cheeseburger place? There's a lot of really good cheeseburger places.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So the next one is scatter simple pleasures throughout your day. So don't think that like one big positive thing is going to make up for the negative thing. You know, you got to, it's better to do like smaller positive things, you know, treat yourself to the coffee or,
Got to treat yourself.
yeah, you know,
Hashtag treat yourself.
buy yourself flowers, get that new book you've been wanting, that sort of thing. Be good to yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Track the good.
Track the good.
That's a pretty good one. If you kept a diet, if you have a diet, let's say I remember I saw a lot of old diary, right? You used to keep a diary. So what you should do is pull out like 10 pages out of your old journal and then rate each sentence as whether or not it's positive or negative in tone.
No, this was more along the lines of, you know, like keeping a gratitude journal, keeping like a kudos file, you know, at work.
We have our
People-
shout outs.
Shout outs are good. But, you know, if people thank you or congratulate you or whatever, keep that all in a file so that you can go back and reference it.
That was the great thing about greeting cards. Like the death of the greeting card industry. It's like people used to have little stacks of greeting cards to commemorate nice things.
Yes.
Feel like you had a terrible birthday, but you had a stack of 50 birthday cards.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You know, memorize like your favorite inspirational poem or different quotes or whatever to think on when you're when you find yourself going negative and having negative thoughts, that sort of thing. That's what Track the Good is.
I like Bible verses for that and Psalms.
No comment.
As long as it's not Leviticus.
No.
Oh, those are the most truthful parts.
It's an opinion.
Maybe so, but they
What are
are
you talking
dark.
about truthful? There's no truth spoken in
No,
those.
there's no
It's all-
truth spoken
It's
in
all,
it.
don't do this,
I just
don't
mean
do that, don't do
that's
this.
the part that everyone loves to ignore, to pretend like there's moral value in certain books.
All right, but I like to focus on the positive, Stephen. This clip is all about focusing on the positive.
Oh, is that what you were doing last night? Was focusing on the positive when I actually had to walk upstairs to get away from you.
Yeah, I was.
Because you
I
were.
feel like nobody watches
you
my
were-
Freeform Fridays.
And that is negative. And you need
I
to
know.
watch yourself when you do that.
I know, but last week's episode got 34 views, and what I need to focus on is being thankful for every one of those 34 views.
Yes.
So if you guys are watching this, thank you.
Yes. The next one is link the negative and the positive. So, you know, take joy in the activity you're doing that makes that makes you happy, but also, you know, acknowledge your apprehension about giving a presentation at work next week. You know, link the two together. They're not mutually exclusive.
Consider doing the presentation in a bunny suit.
There you go.
You guys are just giving me ideas. Because I do a lot of teleconferencing. I could totally wear a bunny suit while doing it.
They might not remember the presentation, but they will remember you.
Well, they wouldn't even know I was wearing. It's teleconference. It's
Oh,
not. I'd just be doing it in a bunny suit because that would be fun.
And then the last one is practice realistic optimism. So
Yes, small attainable goals.
well, small attainable goals, but also, you know, acknowledge that whatever it is, acknowledge the positive parts of it while, you know, still being realistic about, you know, the actual work involved or the inherent, you know, don't diminish it. Don't think, oh, it's all going to be roses and cream when you know there's part of it that's going to be difficult, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, be realistic, but be optimistic at the same time.
Right.
So
It's like my weight loss. It's like, you know, I'd love to be 180 or something, but let's focus on getting down to this.
A very wise person, I think it was Garfield the cat, once said that there's two kinds of problems, the ones you can solve and the ones you can't.
Yep.
There's no point worrying about the ones you can solve, and there's no point worrying about the ones you can't.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So
So that's Carissa Explains It All.
that is it.
So what should we do next week is the question.
Well, one thing though, I feel like the real threat that the negativity bias poses is it gives a weapon to people who want to deceive you. People who understand this bias can very easily exploit it, and someone can turn you against a person or a product or a political party or a corporation or a country by intentionally only feeding you negative things.
Yeah.
And even the most noble, heroic figure could be made to look like a villain if you only found and highlighted the bad things they had done. And so it's very
Somebody's sitting there
dangerous.
Going, yeah, I knew Gandhi. He was a prick.
Exactly. Like, you know, like everybody's had bad days. Everybody was an accidental ass to someone, and it happens.
Sure. I mean, take George Patton, for instance.
Who?
General, World War II.
Yes.
Made a movie about him.
Yes.
You know, dude's considered like a hero.
Yeah, he did the inflatable tanks to make the Germans think they were amassing in a different part.
But
Brilliant.
my
Yeah, it
grandfather could not stand the man. He was one of Patton's minesweepers in World War II. Could not stand the man, refused to ever go see the movie, had nothing nice to say about him.
Yeah, and you can
So-
find that with everyone. And according to history, great men are seldom also good men at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably true. All right. What's next?
What is next?
Section. Oh, come on. I am just not having luck with this thing today. Come on, done.
Technology is not our friend today, apparently.
Just
there we go.
not. There we go. So TV shows that need another season. So before we even start, if you're watching this clip on YouTube, leave a comment, answer this question in the comment before we even start, right? Pause the video. What TV show, in your opinion, needs one more season? You only get one. Only one. Only one. So I posted this on our Facebook page.
But I want to hear your personal choices before we hear other suggestions, though, because I don't want, I want to be the first one to say it if mine is unique.
Go for it.
Well, the show for me, like the instant you said it, there was only one answer, and that is Beauty and the Beast. The live-action Beauty and the Beast from the 80s with Ron Perlman and Linda Hamilton. The way the show ends is so bat bleep crazy. Like, it is insane. And people who remember the show probably don't remember how it ends. Because Beauty and the Beast is this charming love story where Linda Hamilton plays the love interest. And at the end of season 2, because of a very personal dispute between her and the producers, she quits the show, and the writers kill off her character in one of the most ludicrously cruel, heartbreaking ways that any main character has ever died on a TV show.
What did they do to her?
And then
I don't think I ever saw it.
she was kidnapped right after she got pregnant with the Beast's child, and then they kept her locked up the entire time that she was
Spoilers.
pregnant. And then really horrifying, insane things happen.
Oh.
But in any case, the character dies, and then they introduce a new love interest named Diana, who was an amazing character. And everybody was so mad that they killed off the first love interest that nobody gave the new one a chance. And she was like an objectively way cooler character who deserved Vincent so much more. And I'm still mad that I never got to see the show progress to the point where Vincent could actually get together with Diana, because that would have been a beautiful relationship. And I need another season. And for all you Game of Thrones fans out there, this was a show written by George R.R. Martin. So all of the cruelty and pain that we have come to love in a begrudging way from Game of Thrones, he was practicing in this.
Beauty and the Beast.
And Beauty and the Beast.
What was yours?
I've got a couple, and I know somebody on Facebook
Yeah, I
did
know.
mention
So-
one of them.
So you claim yours. So Steven's right. Claim yours before we read them.
Oh. You know, there's part of me that wants to say something absolutely ridiculous.
Go for it.
But
She's gonna hate me when I tell her what my initial reaction post was. Or she's gonna love me but hate me.
okay, so since I know what some people said already on Facebook, I'm
Yeah.
not going to go with that one, even though I
Oh.
definitely agree with that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, the one that comes to mind is,
She's really dragging here.
yeah, I there's so many that I would have gone, yes, another
No,
season.
we're pinning it down. Stop thinking. Just name one. Name a show.
Queer as Folk.
There you go. Where's Folk?
Queer as Folk.
There you
Because
go.
there's
Was that
no
so hard?
there's no such thing as too many gorgeous naked men. I'm sorry.
It's true. And there's a lot of gay sex. And if you're into watching gay sex, that's a good show to watch. So, I'm not into watching gay sex. I'm just saying.
At least not that you admit to.
You showed me one episode. I was like, this is not.
I never
this
showed
is
you an
not for me.
episode of Queer
You
as
did.
Folk.
You showed me
No.
one.
No, you
showed
must
me
have watched that
season
on.
1, episode 1.
Oh, I don't remember that, but
And I was like, that's a lot of gay sex.
yep.
So it's so hard for me because my initial just gut response is Firefly.
Mm-hmm. That was my initial too, and I was like, no,
And then I'm
I know
like,
somebody posted that.
Battlestar Galactica.
See, Battlestar came to an ending, though, and the writers...
No, stick one in the middle. Give me another middle season. Give me another middle season of Community.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that's really probably, I would like another, but this is fictional, right? So like, yeah, so even though whether or not it comes to an ending, give me a middle season of Roseanne, right? That would be a good one. But these are ones that have not been mentioned.
Roseanne has a really effed up ending. That show went out on a weird note.
I love the
did.
ending of Roseanne. I don't know what you're talking about. That last season, like in context of the ending, is perfect. In fact, it's almost better knowing the ending than watching it through the first time. It got really meta right at the end. It was great. So my initial reaction was Firefly, right?
But hey, at least we got Serenity. So
Right,
it's not the open wound it could have been.
Sure.
Correct. I would have loved one more season of Mad Men, but it had to come to an end. but I would have liked them to do one more. And probably Breaking Bad, right? Those would have been, but I'm not.
Oh no, man! Breaking Bad was perfect. Add any more episodes of that, and the whole thing would fall apart.
Fair enough.
Like that was the most beautifully constructed show.
Yeah.
I think my mother would like another season of Star Trek, the
Yeah.
original.
The original Star Trek would be a good one. But nobody commented that one. So let's go through the comments here. 24, the original with Jack Bauer. I didn't know there was more than one.
I feel they
Yeah,
ran
they
for
just,
like 7
they just
or
did
8
a second
seasons.
one.
I feel like it way outstayed its welcome, so I'm not really
Lisa's
sure
gonna hate you
why
now.
anyone would want more.
Lisa's going to hate you now. Seinfeld.
You know, I really hated Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, hands down.
Until the last episode of Seinfeld. And the fact that it ended with them all getting sent to jail for being the asses that they are was just so
You found that
like,
actually.
utterly satisfying to me. Because the whole time I'm watching the show, I'm like, I hate all of these people. Why does the world find all of these jackasses so funny?
See, I couldn't even watch the show because of that.
Right. And so at the end, for the show itself to acknowledge that, oh, hey, yeah, they're total jackasses. Like that was okay. You were in on the joke this whole time. I can respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I think I'd agree with that. Give me another middle season of Seinfeld. Absolutely, Pete. And Alex, though, once I read it, I was like, no, Alex is right. He's right. Alex comments, God damn it, Bobby, King of the Hill is the correct answer. Rick and Morty isn't done. It's just taking on a very Venturesque release schedule. Holy blank. That would be a bonkers crossover. But I agree with that. King of the Hill. By the way, Texas is exactly like it from my perspective. I live in suburban Texas, and it is very much.
I
like
thought
King of
that
the
show
Hill.
was a documentary.
Yeah, it's so good. And then it was Bobby who had posted on his that Rick and Morty, which okay.
I'm ashamed to admit that I haven't seen Rick and Morty.
I don't care for it, but I understand why people do. I just don't. Everybody's got a bandwidth. I'm kind of not looking for a new show right now. I have Bob's Burgers. Leave me alone. Yeah. So Firefly is probably the overwhelming. There's a lot of comments on Firefly. John Egan's comments. Constantine. John Egan's. We got to have him on the show.
That's a good one. Yeah, Constantine really deserved better than it got.
Yeah. And Matt says married with children. That's a pretty good answer. That show could have had one more episode. That show was so modular, like it never serialized. It would have been great. One more. Rick and Morty or Death Note. Fair enough. And I think those are it.
No, somebody said Quantum Leap.
Oh yeah, what was that? That was probably
Speaking of WTF endings,
yeah.
like that show is still the biggest what? I can't say I didn't like it. It was kind of brilliant, and I'm still thinking about it. However many years later, what, 15, 20? It's been forever, right?
Yeah.
Alex said Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Alex Salinas, he was on Freeform Fridays.
See, the next time we should do which shows really should have stopped before they did.
Why you want to go negative?
Because that can be fun.
Why you want to go negative?
I have tremendous fun bashing the X-Files, for instance, which started out so perfect.
That was going to be one of my
And-
facetious answers. The X-Files needed another season.
Well, it needed another season to
That one
mop
and
up its own
Cheers.
mess. Right?
You know what? I would have loved another middle season of Cheers. I mean, yes, in hindsight, it's a show about a guy who sexually harasses employees. But there's still something charming about it. Not the sexual harassing part. All right. So those are our TV. So did we miss one? Right?
Oh, I'm sure
Comment.
there's a wide
Leave a
Yeah.
comment.
stuff that we missed.
If you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe. We do all sorts of stuff. And let's move on. What's next?
Announcements?
Announcements, goals, and our giveaway. So let's go through the announcements. The first one is Sounds in Between will be mixed tomorrow.
Okay.
I was gonna play in Round Top, and then it got canceled, and I have some time. I'm gonna get that done tomorrow, and I'm gonna get Jomo and the Possum Posse the board feed so we can do some evaluation of what to keep kind of stuff for their thing. So those are both coming very, very soon. Those are kind of the next ones on tap for the label. Somewhere after that, or if I get to a point in those processes where I'm waiting on other people, I'll go back to working on We Are Living in the Age of Neo-Feudalism.
That's an excellent title.
Yeah, it's a really good... It's going to be great. We have a video on YouTube. It's on the channel here. It's on the special episodes. So you can listen to 1/4 of the album by checking that out. 2006 and Beyond is on our channel as well. If you go to the main channel of Get Off My Lawn Records, and on the playlists, I put it onto a playlist. It's free. Enjoy. It's a Secret to Nobody. Physicals. We got to get physicals going for that and the Jazz Destroyers live.
Yeah, you need to get me artwork.
Yeah, I need to get the artwork done for that, and then so hopefully this week we'll actually get some physicals made of both of those. And then we're gonna get our web store up and running. I still don't know what I'm doing with e-commerce. I need a way for me to get an address and paid. And I think I have it through my hosting solution. I just gotta look into it. But right now you can buy the downloads at Bandcamp. So getoffmylawnrecords.bandcamp.com. But this is why I was telling you, right? Like, because you were thinking about doing a project on Patreon. I'm like, nope, keep it to the URL because it's easier to drive everybody to the URL. Escape from Ignorance. You just recorded a new one.
Yes, I did. And I know we don't like to talk politics, but for me personally, this last election was so paradigm shifting regarding my perception of the world and forced a lot of self-reflection. And it really killed Escape from Ignorance for a while because I felt like I needed to fundamentally rethink the mission.
Yep.
But in the months since, I realized the mission is still valid. The mission is more important than ever. But I just had to wait until I had come to grips with it so that I could write new episodes that acknowledged our reality in a way that didn't tarnish what I'm trying to do. Because even though I'm a very politically opinionated person, the Escape from Ignorance podcast is about reaching out to people from every political spectrum, from every ideological spectrum, and trying to say, hey, guys.
Let's be reasonable.
In reality, there is objective truth. So if 10 people tell you 10 different things,
here's how to sort that out.
Yeah, one of them is either one of those people is right or none of them are right. And so the fact, like we argue with each other so much that it's easy to lose track of the fact that no, there really is an answer. Like someone is right, someone is wrong, and it is a mathematical process to figure out who is right.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, a lot of human judgment has to be made.
Yeah.
And then we can challenge each other on that judgment, and that's an honest debate. But if we're not using logic and scientific thinking to figure out what our real problems are, then our arguments never achieve anything. We just shout at each other until we get tired of shouting. Mm-hmm. Only with scientific thinking, only with serious deduction and thought can we figure out these are the arguments we should be having.
Yeah. And so episodes 1 through 5 are up, right? That was episode 6 we recorded. They can find that on iTunes.
Yeah, iTunes and Stitcher and the Android podcast platform as well.
And we're going to figure out how to get this show on there hopefully this week. So I'm saying leave a comment, and I don't think you can leave comments on podcasts. But people find... I know people turn this on into the background and just listen, which is kind of the goal. Like, that's why I don't take a ton of time with cameras and things. It's like, it's a 2-hour-long show. Everybody's just going to, like, do their thing while they listen to it. I watch a lot of, like, that's why I like Pat Contry, the guy who wrote this book. Oh, my God, it's heavy. The Ultimate NES Library Book Guide, right? This thing's really cool. It goes through every single NES game, has like a full-page review on it. Very cool. But he has been doing this podcast called the CU Podcast. And it's one camera on him and one camera on his buddy. And that's it. I kind of liked it when it was just one across the room. But he's always done this where he stitches two. It's where I got the idea to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to acknowledge the fact that, I bought the book. I'm not just out stealing, he puts a lot of work into his stuff, but the podcast is clearly his hobby and he's doing a lot of other things. And so he just tosses it together, but he does a nice job. But that's retro video game. But so with Escape from Ignorance, I don't think we're going to go to YouTube with it ever.
Well, I might. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting it on there. It's just not a visual podcast. So it would be like songs where it's just the audio with like a title card or something, which I'm open to. I don't mind putting it out there in more ways for people. I can envision real video content for Escape from Ignorance in the future. Yeah. Like, for instance, there's a specific video that I have scripted detailing how evolution works, because I feel like everyone who understands evolution is somehow inexplicably terrible at explaining it properly to people who don't understand it. And I've heard really brilliant people just fall on their faces trying to explain it in what to me should be a really obvious, logical way.
Yeah.
So I've scripted a video that I think would do it in under 5 minutes, and I hope to get it animated at some point. And that's when I have visual content to go with the audio, that's when I want to go to YouTube. Until then, it just feels like extra work for no obvious reward.
Throwing a couple cameras together for YouTube is a lot more work than if I was just doing audio. If I find that I'm finding a much bigger podcast audience, I'll keep doing YouTube. But I mean,
but my podcast is kind of a performance piece on my part that I can't really do live. So I would never do a video podcast of Escape from Ignorance without seriously rethinking the format. In its current incarnation, it really needs to be audio only.
Yeah, and it's great. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is, so you're going to release this episode when you got the next 4 done, right? You're doing
right. I want to approach it in like batches of 5 because it's meant to operate almost like a lecture series similar to the great courses. And this is a course on how to tell the difference between truth and nonsense. And these should be methods that anyone can use. And that, even though I'm a biased person, these are the methods that I've learned to help eliminate my own bias as much as possible. And I just want to share that with the rest of the world.
Yeah. So also we got in May, we're going to record Millicent Hughes. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be it's going to be an interesting record. I'm going to learn how to do more stuff with my 688 because I'm pretty sure she's going to want to do more with the 688 than play live in a room. I don't want to have to go to digital. You are not finding me funny right now.
Nope.
Yep. So we're looking forward to doing that in May. And then Your Name Here. I think in the fall I'll have some bandwidth for some other projects.
Maybe.
Like the early fall, late summer.
Yeah, like August, maybe September.
Yeah. That's about it. There's a big announcement coming in 2 weeks. So those are our announcements. Let's do our goals, right? We're currently at 214 subscribers on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, right? It's subscribing helps, but watching helps a lot. So thank you. Let's see if we can get that to 220. So if you're already subscribed, ask a friend to subscribe. Someone who maybe you think would enjoy this show. If we can get it to 220, that'd be great, right? Mm-hmm. Growth. We try to make interesting content on a variety of things, but a variety of things that are interesting to everybody. Mm-hmm. Not just, let's watch Don work at making a record label. That gets a little boring. So we do the other content. All right. So those are our goals. Our giveaway. We have card 29.
We have card 29.
100. This is the Jazz Destroyers Live. This is the first batch of anything Get Off My Lawn Records has ever put out in a physical format. Yes. So you'll have number 29 of 100. What what we're going to do, leave a comment with hashtag disco hoodie on the video and tell me where you're watching from, right? Just give me where you're watching from and hashtag disco hoodie. And I'll pick one at random and I'll figure out how to get in touch with you through other means, and I'll get your address and pop it in an envelope.
Yes.
But I'll get you the download code as fast as I can. So yeah, that's our giveaway. So share this video, subscribe, hit thumbs up. Thank you for the support. We always appreciate it. Let's move on. What is next? This would be our shout outs.
Shout outs.
And let's do it like we used to, right? We've been doing batches of 3. You start with a shout out. What's your first shout out?
Justice League.
That's right. You are going on and on about the trailer.
Well, it just hit this morning, and I'm a huge Marvel guy, and I love the MCU. It's like my favorite entertainment thing that's ever happened, in that popcorn way, not in a serious intellectual way, but there's a distinction. But DC has just been falling on its face repeatedly.
Yes, that's true.
It can't get it together. What infuriates me is that Warner Brothers had the rights to the Justice League roster for 20 years. And did nothing with it. And only after Marvel just totally schools them on how much money they're not making does DC realize how stupid they've been, and then they just cannot get their act together. But
Disney really knows how to churn them out.
Yeah, but I have
churning
since
them out.
Not going there. I think that in hindsight, I have come to kind of love the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman and the extended cut of Suicide Squad as very guilty pleasures. They're complete disasters, objectively speaking. But I kind of love them in that malshapen stepchild kind of way. But the Justice League trailer today is the first thing they've produced where the tone and vibe and spirit of it actually feels right. I can criticize some of the hardcore, cyberpunk designs, but it felt like the Justice League for the first time since Warner Brothers started doing this. And I hope and pray that the movie itself maintains the tone of that trailer. I want Zack Snyder to succeed. I want this movie to be awesome. So that's the positivity for you right there.
Yeah. What's your first shout out?
Mine's actually a sarcastic shout out to Netflix, who has decided that starting April 1st, they're going to remove Buffy, Angel, Arrested Development, except for that last season, The X-Files, and a whole bunch of other series.
Should we unsubscribe? We pay the same as a new member now.
No, because there's still other stuff I want to see on there. But,
Fair enough.
It's still...
And it
still
rotates
irks me.
around. It's part
And
of the
you do
deal.
have every episode. You have every season of Buffy on DVD.
I do. I don't have every season of The X-Files.
Yeah,
and House was one of them. Although I think
You
I have all
have
the...
every season of House.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of stuff that they're removing.
We should do an episode on the DVD collection. When I get it cleaned up, we'll do an episode on the DVD collection.
Yes.
I've got how many DVDs do you think I got in that room over there?
Oh, it's a lot.
I kind of estimated one time, we just kind of counted how many were on a shelf and then
Multiplied out.
multiplied out, and it was roughly 2,500. It's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And now I watch YouTube. And I got shelves and shelves of DVDs. We'll do an episode on it because there's a lot of really good cinema on there. My first shout out is to Victorian England. I've been watching BBC documentaries on Victorian England, and it was a mess. If you were very wealthy, it's always been good. If you were upper middle class, you did really, really well in Victorian England. You were really, because industrialization was happening and you were designing machines and the economy was expanding for you. But the people at the bottom, that was intense to kind of really wrap my head around it. So I posted it on Facebook, right? Apparently Victorian England was a
Absolute hellhole for
Yeah, there you
everyone
go.
who wasn't rich.
And my My 10th grade history teacher commented, I believe I told you these exact words.
Well, the fact that the era has
So
been
really it's a shout out to Mr. Wax.
awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, he was, of all my high school history teachers, he was the only one I ever remembered anything I ever learned in that. And that was that, communist Russia was bad. Like, real bad. Like, I got banned to Siberia for smiling. I was so rebellious. Oh, poor guy.
But the fact that pop culture has romanticized Victorian England so much tells you a lot about who was writing most of the history.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. But yeah. So what is your second shout out?
My second, I am not an anime person. Like, I have nothing against it, but for whatever reason, I've had a hard time connecting with it. Just despite living with a roommate who's like the biggest anime freak.
He's got one of those pillows.
Yeah, he's tried
It's
so
awesome.
hard. But there is one show that utterly captivates my heart, and that show is Attack on Titan.
Okay.
This is a true masterpiece of storytelling in any medium. Like, the fact that it's anime is completely incidental. It's just brilliant. It's basically a horror show, and it's set in an indeterminate future where the world has been reduced to this one tribal settlement living behind this massive wall. And outside the wall are the Titans, these monsters that are basically giant people that act like mindless animals and eat everything in sight. And no one understands how the world came to be in this state. And this show does a better job of making you feel legitimately afraid of the threat of the Titans than like any horror movie I have seen in 10 years. Like, the show is harrowing. You come out of one episode of this cartoon and you're like shaking from tension because it's just so well done. But the show did this first season 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, the show has waited for the writer of the manga on which it is based to get far enough ahead to justify them doing a second season. So for fans, we have been waiting for like 4 years with no idea when or if we were ever getting a season 2. And season 2 starts next Saturday.
Nice.
1 week from today, the wait ends. And it is a glorious thing.
Cue up the BitTorrent. Is there somewhere to watch it on U.S. television?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm trying to sort that out.
Maybe it's on Crunchyroll.
Eventually, it will be released by Funimation because they do an amazing English dub of it that's available. It's one of the best English dubs I've ever heard. And I'm usually a guy who advocates for original language for everything.
Right.
But the Attack on Titan English dub is phenomenal.
Huh.
You would think it had been made in English if you didn't know any better. But that usually is like 6 months after. So I'm going to find a way to watch the show by any means. But if they can give me a way to watch it legally in the States, I will pay whatever it takes.
Steven's going to learn how to speak Japanese. Mm-hmm. All right. What is your second shout out?
My second shout out is the reason we're not getting rid of Netflix, which is I have discovered The Secret Circle. And yeah, I'm not giving that up. Sorry.
So when they pull that, is that a Netflix original?
I have no idea.
So when they pull that, then do we get to cancel it?
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll discuss it then. But let me finish it first.
Yeah, enjoy.
It's like one of the few things on Netflix I've actually gotten into in a very, very long time.
I just want to feel like I can. You know what I mean? Like,
You keep watching Bob's Burgers.
I do. I love that show.
Watch something else.
Well, no, it's not that. It's I want to feel like I can cancel it because I'm still pretty upset about when they changed the price on me. So, like, I'm just...
I think the service Netflix is offering is a freaking miracle
It kind of
of
is.
technology and everything. Like, I thought they were always...
It's
I
why
felt
net
like
neutrality
it
works.
was a steal for the price they were charging. When it went up, I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's just now they do tiered pricing. It's a frustrating thing. So...
I can't read your handwriting, so I
Yeah,
have
I
no
know.
idea
I
what
can
it says.
barely read my handwriting on that one. My second shout out is Slugs on Synth at Sea. Slugs on Synths at Sea. There's a lot of talk of cats on synths in space, but the synth memes group, there was slugs on synths at sea. Holy cow! This is why we do this by text, everybody.
Like my tongue hurt just listening to you try to say that.
So go check that out on Facebook. Lots of funny memes of slugs on synths at sea.
Okay.
What is your third shout out, Stephen?
My third goes to a TV show on the Sci-Fi Channel called The Expanse. This is the best show on television that nobody is watching. Like, it's got an extremely small, utterly dedicated rabid fan base, and for some reason, despite being so good on every level, it cannot break out of its bubble of sci-fi fandom. But this is a show that should appeal to the Game of Thrones crowd. The kind of Game of Thrones is a show that made a lot of people watch it who would never have watched a fantasy show, because Game of Thrones just happens to be an incredible character drama that makes you care whether or not there are dragons. And The Expanse is the same way. It's this incredible character drama and political drama set in a distant future, and it looks so good. And if you are a science geek who is always frustrated by how sci-fi shows take so many gleeful, painful liberties with physics, this is the show that you have been dreaming of. This is the show that milks enormous drama out of the way physics actually works. And it's just a beautifully done show that everyone should give a shout out. The Expanse.
Got it.
Can't praise it enough.
What is your third shout out?
Yoga pants.
Yes.
I
call those space pants.
I am late to the yoga pants game, but oh my god, are they comfortable?
I call them space pants.
Yes, I know you do.
Do you know why I call them space pants?
Nobody wants to know why you call them space pants, and if you start talking about it, you're getting something thrown at your head.
Leave a comment. Let her know. So my third shout out is to the Get Off My Lawn Records family.
Yes.
It's our Facebook group. We kind of took pre-show comments from there. So that's the easiest way. Somebody should start us a Reddit. Do you Reddit? Can you start a Reddit?
I read Reddit occasionally, but
yeah.
If you're very, very nice to your sister-in-law, maybe she will.
No, we're not putting her in charge of anything.
Like, I'm basically exclusively Twitter when it comes to social media anymore. Like,
Twitter, yeah. So we don't have it. I don't have a Twitter for the show. I posted on mine. It's @DonaldMoore. And I think, we used to, the first few episodes, we actually showed our Twitter handles the whole show.
We did.
But I'm not showing it anymore. But yeah, it's @DonaldMoore. Cool. And yeah, join the family. We don't overpost, right? So you don't get a ton of notifications. All right, what's next? Stop using presets. I did get it right.
Good for you.
She left the room. Welcome to the train wreck, everybody.
So I feel like I understand what you're going for with this from a creative standpoint.
No, it's not even creative.
Okay, then I
it's a highly technical standpoint. So you take photographers, you shoot raw, right?
Yes.
And so you pull those into
Lightroom.
Does Lightroom have presets?
Sure.
What kind of presets does Lightroom have?
So Lightroom has presets for individual tools.
Like what tools? Oh.
Right. Like, so if you want to use the spot removal tool, that tool has a whole bunch of presets. If you want to use there's one specific tool that
right. So once you're using the tool, you use
the spot brush tool has a preset for teeth whitening and a preset for softening skin.
Okay.
And it's because the way most photo manipulation software works is it's using these very mathematical equation-based things to cause very technical effects to happen,
right?
Which really don't correlate in the human mind to what you can use it for. In other words, Lightroom gives you this thing worth of 12 different scrubbers you can pull back and forth.
Ah.
And each one of those scrubbers affects your brush. And so there's some combination of them that will do just about anything you want, but it's really, really hard to understand what settings do what if you just dive into it blind. So the presets, like in other words, if you had no idea how any of the tools worked and someone said, make it do teeth whitening, you would spend hours testing each one until you finally started to understand the combination that would get you teeth whitening.
Sure.
Or you can click the preset for teeth whitening and all the scrubbers instantly snap to the settings that give you that. And now you start to understand from studying what the preset does how all the controls work.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll give you that the presets are good for educational purposes, but that's about it. Right? Like when you're on an audio side of it, I am a firm believer in start from scratch, understand every parameter. Now, if there's a preset that gets you close because like you're gonna have to move 15 knobs and you won't have to move them as far, okay, right? But don't kid yourself, right? Know how to use it from scratch. Know how to get a good sound from scratch, and then choose to use presets. That's my deep thought on this. If you're for example, when you're using Ozone, you're going to destroy your audio just using an Ozone preset. Same with Lander. That's the problem with this Lander service that they're offering. $5, it'll throw your thing through an automated mastering thing, which is really just a lot of compression.
So I think I totally agree with you from like the artistic standpoint. I feel you there. One other different use of presets that I do think is valuable, though, is achieving consistency from a purely technical level. Like, for example,
well, but
I
then
want
shouldn't
my
you
podcast.
Make your own preset?
Exactly. And so to me, that's what I was leading to is I think with my podcast, I want it to sound the same every time. So I want to use the same mic. I want to use the same inputs. I want to use the same export settings.
Right.
And so the first time through, I want to be artistic and I want to play and I want to experiment until I find the balance that feels right. And then once I've got that, I want to lock it into a preset so that I know it will sound the same every time from there on out.
Well, the problem is that you record them over different times. And audio at that volume is pretty delicate, right? So today you would record at this volume, tomorrow you might record at this volume, and the day after you might record at this volume. If you have a preset, you're just going to go click and blindly ignore the fact that this one's louder than that one. And by using the preset, you're actually hurting yourself. Instead, you should just optimize it to sound good every time, and then that good, because of your taste, will have that signature. Right? And plus I kind of threw a microphone at you and went, here's record. Right? Like, we've never sat down and done the shootouts of the microphones, because I know the character of them, and I also know that generally they're going to sound good, right? This one sounds different than that one, kinda. But
I'm sure it's a fairly nuanced difference.
It's a very nuanced difference where your post-processing, though, I can make this one generally sound like that one in post. So if I rely on a preset, it's going to do a certain thing to the certain microphone every time. But if the performance changes, and every performance is unique, you don't want to go for finalization without really optimizing each parameter. With you, I take it I've got a preset that I throw on it, and it generally makes it loud without clipping, and then I go, yeah, give it back to me, and I'll improve it more if you need it. But I don't hand you a final. We did that. We mixed them a couple of times, and now they just generally sound the same. Recording in the same room.
Right. So it's probably all the physical factors, but I feel like I feel like it is important to be conscious of those aspects of your setup and to remember them and think of them as a sort of preset.
Right.
And whether you use it or not, then it becomes an artistic choice.
Well, and I think I've been using different stuff with you so that next time you come in, you can kind of know generally which microphone you want to use. And this microphone dictates that we use the Dayking microphone pre, which for the gearheads out there, they just all started screaming at their screens. Sorry, guys. I love that preamp. I love it. But it was spendy. I did a project and I had a day job. So instead of spending that money on rent or food, I bought a preamp to do that project. Right? It was basically, I will do your project if you buy me this thing I want. And that's generally for the whole, guys with day jobs thing. Once your rig is at a certain point, you no longer need guys with you no longer need more stuff. So go make music and spend the money on helping bands actually sell copies and go make your dent in the universe. But the stop using presets, and I would say rethink your business model. I think in many ways, a lot of guys with studios, they all take on the same business model, which is like using a preset. It is the thoroughly uncreative, it's the least creative way to go about it. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's all about being creative. You got to stand out. You got to find your niche. Well, if your niche is the exact same niche as the other guy, right, where I put microphones up and I charge by the hour to record, then you're just competing on other factors, and most of which will be out of your control. Mm-hmm. There will always be deeper pockets than you in every industry. So by carving out a label, working with your friends, and then you all help each other sell records, you're going to wind up making some money in which to reinvest in the gear like I have over the years. And you'll also have a blast, and you'll be building an actual name for yourself, not just trying to leech off of hobbyists, right? Go find the bands that are worth recording, record them, share it with the world, and do it in a responsible way financially. There's no reason that any of our viewers couldn't do exactly what we're doing and not compete with us. When you're talking about independent labels, it's all about getting together, because it's our real enemy is the major labels. And I get frustrated with these comic book movies and these ultra mega stars, and everybody cares about whether or not I spoiled Logan, right? But it's very hard to get people to care about the next independent release. That's what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So hit subscribe and quit using presets. Learn your parameters. And what's next? Everybody gets a trophy, my favorite part of the show. This week, I am giving Steven the Brevity Award. I forgot that. I mean, because when we do these shows by ourselves, they're like an hour long. When I have an interview, it's like, it takes us, 45 minutes maybe? It's very, very quick.
Yeah, we go through it pretty fast. I
forget what a hang this is when I get people in the room. So thanks for hanging out, man.
Yes, you're more than welcome for all of that substance.
That's right. All this, I really do appreciate it. That's why you get the award.
All right, well, I am going to give this award to Carissa for Hail Sagan!
Yeah, I don't know if anybody can actually see it. You're wearing a Hail Sagan t-shirt.
I don't know if you can see that.
Carl Sagan. See it. Carl Sagan is everyone's hero, whether they know it or not.
That's very, very true. Very true.
Yeah.
You.
Me.
You.
What about me?
You get the Interrupt Us Award.
Ah. What's my first name? The Interrupt Us Award.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Stepped on your toes. But it's fun and it's funny. And Jared wants you to do an episode of Carissa Explains It All of how I put up with Don's BS.
Oh, really?
So
he does.
So I'm down to do that if you're going to put it into a keynote like this.
How I put up with Don's BS. Oh, that's...
Yeah.
I don't know if we got time on this podcast.
I'm saying make it, a 5 to 7 minute video. And
Yes.
we'll do it. And then I want everybody in the audience to get the Hanging in There award, because you guys hung in there. Thanks for hanging out.
Yes.
And on that note,